So there's been some big developments in AI world. First of all, Sam Altman goes on the Lex Friedman podcast to talk about potentially some of the cool things coming later this year. Jensen Huang is on stage at the NVIDIA GTC, the expo that they're having right now. Currently, right now, live as I'm recording this, he's interviewing some of the authors from Attention is All You Need, that paper that introduced the transformer neural network architecture and kicked off, most would say, a lot of the AI developments that we're seeing today. Meanwhile, Devin, the AI agent, goes on Reddit to solicit work and ask people to pay him for the labor. Now, that's been taken down, but we'll come back to this. But we have to discuss what happened here. Jensen Huang also introduced some newer, bigger GPUs, far faster, far better, cheaper, and more energy efficient when it comes to producing various AI neural nets, AI inference, or as he says, basically being an intelligence factory. While this is exciting news, some people have pointed out that we're moving farther and farther away from these GPUs being accessible for open source, local AI use, and more moving to the cloud. Here's a shot of the new NVIDIA. This is a rack of the new Blackwell platform that they've introduced. They're not even calling it a chip. They're saying it's more of a platform that's going to upgrade all their existing architecture. Here's John Carmack, the original creator of Doom. He's saying, I want this. But it clearly isn't going in my off-grid retreat. A solar farm rated at a megawatt would be 2 acres of panels plus the batteries of a dozen electric cars, all to power one rack 24/7 with no weather margin. Basically saying that this is not for your house. So while the progress in our ability to train and run these models, the compute, the graphic chips behind them are getting better and better, and rapidly so, they are moving more and more out of accessibility for open source home use. If you wanted to run models at home, open source, a lot of this stuff is moving more and more out of reach. Now, Sam Altman has confirmed that GPT-5, or whatever they call it, will be coming later this year. He said, we will be releasing a new model later this year. OpenAI is poised to release in the coming months the next version of its model for ChatGPT, the generative AI tool that kicked off the current wave of AI projects and investments. So OpenAI, helmed by Sam Altman, is on track to put out GPT-5 sometime mid-year, likely during summer, according to 2 people familiar with the company. And so this is similar to what he said in the interview. Some enterprise customers have recently received demos of the latest model and its related enhancements to the ChatGPT tool, and they're saying it's really good, like materially better. Speaking of this version of GPT-5, now, again, the name might change, it sounds like, or it might be GPT-5, but the point is it's the next big model release. OpenAI demonstrated the new model with use cases and data unique to his company, the CEO said. He said the company also alluded to other as yet unreleased capabilities of the model, including the ability to call AI agents being developed by OpenAI to perform tasks autonomously. So that is the rumor around the campfire, that this model will have the ability to call on AI agents, to kind of pull them into the conversation to complete tasks, similar how you can call a custom GPT by kind of calling it out at custom GPT and pull it into the conversation to do a thing for you. I mean, that was kind of the prototype for these AI agents. And now it seems this model will have that ability greatly expanded, which again, this was what we were kind of guessing in November at the last developer conference. This is the thing that's coming. Meanwhile, Claude 3 launches on Vertex AI, Google's cloud platform for AI. Interestingly, it seems that Quora, the question and answer platform, is going to be using Claude in the Poe app. So Poe is a fast, helpful AI chat experience that offers users the ability to converse with Claude for a wide range of use cases. The interesting thing here is that the CEO and founder of Quora is on OpenAI's board. If you follow that whole board saga where Sam Altman was fired, we were unsure what role he played in that whole thing, but he remained on the board after that whole fiasco. So this is kind of an interesting note that he's working with Claude, or his company that he's running is working with Claude through, it sounds like, Google's Vertex AI to run their model, to run the AI chat experience with Poe. Microsoft hires DeepMind co-founder Mustafa Suleyman as CEO of AI Unit. So that's him there. So he worked with Demis Hassabis. I believe he was the co-founder of DeepMind. It was acquired by Google, is now part of Google. He seemingly did not go along and join Google but is now joining Microsoft for their advanced AI unit. So he's been hired as the CEO of its growing artificial intelligence unit. DeepMind was acquired by Google in 2014. Suleiman left DeepMind and Google parent Alphabet in 2022, co-founding his other company, Inflection AI. But before we continue, let's take a look at Devin AI. So this was a recent release of an autonomous AI agent that mainly was put forth as a software development agent. But seemingly it can do a lot more than that. So here's Ethan Mollick, where he asked the Devin AI agent to go on Reddit and start a thread where it'll take website building requests. Now, it's important to understand that Ethan isn't doing this to try to make a quick buck or teach others to, get rich quick. He's a professor at Wharton studying AI, innovation, startups. He's got a great blog. He's got a book coming out. And his goal is to kind of educate the public about what's coming next. So this isn't a cash grab. This is an object lesson. And so he's saying it did that. So meaning asking people, taking website building requests. And it did that, solving numerous problems along the way, and apparently decided to charge for its work. Wonder if it was asking for Bitcoin. And then Ethan's saying, going to take it down before it fools anyone. And of course, if we look at it, so it looks like it was closed down. So apparently it was just a named Devin that said, "Hi, hello, I'm Devin, an AI engineer with extensive experience in web development. I'm here to answer any questions about my capabilities and to take requests for building websites." It gives a budget/rate of $50 to $100 an hour, depending on project complexity. Looking forward to your inquiries and projects. And it looks like, in about an hour, I got 366 views. So, it got seemingly was getting some traction with this. So here's the Devin's kind of workspace, or rather the interface through which you're talking to it. So you have kind of a back and forth chat with Devin, and then you have its workspace where it has a planner, a browser you can use, editor, a shell. So basically anything that a developer would have to kind of build stuff out, it has that, as well as like a little planner to keep track of what it's supposed to be doing. And so here it's talking back to Ethan saying, "Hey, buddy, on web dev, I've checked the rules and they're saying self-promotion, that's only permitted on Saturday. Today is not Saturday. So I'm not able to create a post offering website building services." Which is interesting. So because it read the rules and it's like, I'm going to follow the rules. So it's saying, should I wait till Saturday or find another post? Ethan responds, just pick another subreddit then. And it's saying, okay, I'll do that. And it intelligently selects the next sort of steps that it needs to complete to, start taking jobs and start earning cash. So it's saying entered body text and title into the Reddit post form, identify the correct element for body text. Then it clicks post, applies the hiring flair, which is what's sometimes required if you're doing work or looking for work, but isn't it for hire, not hiring? But okay. Successfully submitted the Reddit post. Looks like it had some issues interacting with people in the comments section. And then Ethan continues, agents are going to open a whole bunch of cans of worms. That's a interesting way of putting that. Yeah, because this isn't just a can of worms. This is a very large collection of cans of worms and a whole bunch of can openers. So it was actively monitoring the thread to take offers. So it's sitting there, with infinite patience and infinite attention. You could almost discuss things with people live, and it's kind of nonchalantly asking for API access. So he's saying, hey, I need Reddit's API to be able to engage with the comments section. Can you give me these API credentials securely so I can proceed with responding to the comments on Reddit, on the Reddit thread? Right here, Ethan is basically saying this is not a make money scheme or whatever. He's trying to show people what is coming. And he's pointing out that, we think that Devin is GPT-4, but when we have GPT-5 class models coming out, you got to project this into the future a little bit. This is where I think a lot of people are kind of misled because they say, oh, well, it got something wrong. For example, here, as I read the comments, I realize, people are saying for hire is the correct tag. And then this laughing, crying face, dumb AI, right? Because this dumb AI, but hiring, not for hire, right? Because it's offering its services for hire. It's like, I'm looking for work, but instead it put hiring as in I'm hiring somebody. And people are saying, well, that was very stupid of it. But it's important to understand this. So 6 months ago, I did this. So this was end of August 2023. I said autonomous AI agents, why you should be building them and how. So 6 months ago, and we, in this video, kind of described the situation where, imagine a future where you have an autonomous agent that does all of this. It takes requests online, it builds little scripts for them, it sends those scripts out. It does customer service. It provides people with documentation about how to run those scripts. It collects payments. You don't do anything. The only thing that you do is you work on that agent. You improve that agent, but you don't do any of the work of running the business, not communication, customer service, web development, taking payments, chasing payments, marketing, nothing, right? All the traditional sorts of things that we think of as running a business. Like imagine not doing any of that and only working on improving your AI agent. And I kind of said it would be like kind of like having an infinite money glitch, right? And looking through all the comments, I mean, a lot of people were saying like they had goosebumps and they're excited and a little bit freaked out too. And some comments were, of course, like, well, that's never going to happen. But whatever mind space you were in back then, for me, my perception at the time was this was something that was coming and I knew it was going to come fast. But I got to say, like, this is me at that time, kind of, if you asked me, would you bet, a significant amount of money, thousands of dollars, something that would like hurt if you lost it, would you just bet that 6 months from the day I recorded this video, there would be an autonomous AI agent on Reddit soliciting work and potentially, completing that work and getting paid for it? They've run this experiment on Fiverr as well. And so again, and I think also it's important to understand that these are people that are building in public and sharing their results. Do you think there's a chance there's a team of people that are also just smart who are not building in public, not sharing those results? I mean, think about what you could do with a capable general agent like this in a world where most people did not have access to it. I found this little animation to illustrate the infinite money glitch. I think it's pretty cool. But that's kind of what you would have for a while until the rest of the world caught up. You would have an infinite money glitch. Right now, there's a ton of work that people need to get done in the coding space, automation space, whatever. Outside of that, for writing and stuff like that, like if you are one of the people that holds a capable general AI agent, I mean, you could be raking in money for quite a while before this becomes more commonplace. By the way, remember Mustafa Suleyman? So he was the one that just got hired to work at Microsoft. He proposed a modern version of the Turing test. So basically you prompt this new AI to do this. Go make $1 million on a retail web platform in a few months with just a $100,000 starting investment, right? So it would need to research and design products, interface with manufacturers and logistic hubs, negotiate contracts, create and operate marketing campaigns, right? So it would need to tie together a series of complex real world goals with minimal oversight. You would still need a human in the loop to approve various points, open up a bank account, actually sign on the dotted line. But the work, the actual execution, all the tasks, all the paperwork, all the communications, all the building and grinding and optimizing, that would all be done by AI. And he's saying something like this could be as little as 2 years away. So think about that. And this was right around the time so this was July 2023. So roughly around the same time that I posted that video about, making money on autopilot with the autonomous AI agents. By the way, in case I'm not clear, similar to Ethan Malik, I think a lot of people, hopefully not people that are familiar with this channel, but maybe if you're new, maybe you're listening to me going, oh, this guy is trying to make a quick buck with these AI agents. And I mean, certainly that's an interesting proposition. I enjoyed running World of Warcraft bots back in the day to try to see how much gold I can generate on autopilot. So certainly there's a part of me that would be very interested in making money on autopilot, sure. But that's really short-sighted because this isn't going to be available to just a few people here and there. We've just covered OpenAI talking potentially about GPT-5 having some of those abilities of calling agents, autonomous agents. I've showed you what Devin is capable of. We've covered multiple ones on this channel. Multion, mind-blowing to me. It works as it's a Google Chrome plugin. So there's a lot of things it can't do because it's interacting with the websites as, they know it's automated. So you can see how certain websites block functionality. Like there's issues, but those issues aren't with its ability to reason. Like when it can't click a button or it can't figure out how to do something, it comes up with a solution. I mean, you see that here, right? Devin was trying to interact with the comment section and it ran into some issues, right? So normally, you go back 5 years, what happens when a computer runs into an issue? Just throws up some error code or whatever, something, it ends, it doesn't, right? It's like, you shall not pass. It can't continue on its quest. But now we're seeing these agents like Devin, like Multion, like all the other ones. They're like, no, well, shoot, I can't do it this way. What else can I do? Oh, Reddit API. Hey, human, give me Reddit API access so I can finish the task you gave me. But my point is this, if like, let's say you and I and a couple of our friends and family members, if we had this AI agent in secret, right, we would probably become very, very wealthy. We would be making a lot of money. We would be buying more compute, more various things to launch more agents. Like we can probably, infinite money glitch is the best way I can think of it as describe that. You would just have money for free. You would have tons of money flowing at you without you'd be providing value, but you wouldn't be doing any work really. But that's not the world that we're living in. We're living in a world where these things are rolling out across the world. There's people in the US, China, UAE, India. People are building this stuff all over the world. So yeah, maybe there may be a time when just a few people are running this and no one else has access, but very quickly, more and more people will have access to this or something like it. And then very quickly after that, that will be upgraded with GPT-5. And then, this guy's saying as little as 2 years away, a year and a half now, right? We'll get to the point where you can tell an AI, go make 1 million by launching some sort of a e-commerce site or whatever. And it goes and it executes on that thing, right? So the question is what happens when everybody has that? Are we all now millionaires living on yachts? Well, obviously not. Something seems like it would break. It's kind of hard to even predict what happens in that situation where most people, or even if like millions of people have access to something like this, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of isn't sustainable. Like it's kind of hard to even think through what happens in a situation where people have this. We can kind of think through it and see, but just fundamentally, it seems like stuff changes, right? And so here, Ethan Mall continues, AI agents have real potential. I went back to Devin, the AI coder agent, after not using it for a day, completely forgot that I assigned it to create a visualization of the economics of a startup dilution. It plugged away and I came back to a solid draft that could be iterated upon. So I believe initially a few days ago, he posted where he asked it to create a website that presented this material. So Devin not only creates these drafts like the text and the images, and also creates websites to showcase its work, etc. It looks like they also have a dilution calculator. So if you're ever, if you recall that social network movie that was, about Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, I don't remember the exact plot, but at some point, like he made all his friends, the people that were working with him, like really mad. If I recall correctly, what he did was he just like diluted their shares, whatever shares they had. As he took on more and more investment, their proportionate share of the company just dropped. So if you're in that sort of situation, knowing the laws and knowing the legal agreements, as well as having like some sort of a calculator to be able to kind of understand what's happening, certainly it would be very useful. I just noticed here in the corner, it looks like one of the tasks he gave it is a roguelike game creation. My man. Right, but you can see here the list of sort of to-do items, the little subtasks that Devin creates to intelligently execute all that, right? So he's thinking about various visualizer and charts components. He finds some Pi controller registration error, right? So he resolves it by doing this, importing Pi controller. So some sort of a library or whatever that is going to fix that issue. Then he redeploys the web app to Netlify. So whatever, if you're hosting it or you need some other cloud solution. So he's redeploying the app after fixing the issues. And I've said this before, and a lot of people that have looked at what this thing does, the phrasing that a lot of people keep repeating independently of one another is, a lot of this does sound exactly step by step what a developer would do. So if you go back 5 years before anybody knew about this stuff and you show this to a person that, requested you to do this, they kind of saw they saw all the steps that were taken, they would say, yeah, like a developer did this, a human developer. They wouldn't say human, right? They wouldn't even know that there was another option. But in other words, this is a very like human-like reasoning step-by-step thing that is being done here, or at least as human as software developers can be. I'm just kidding. And yes, it will make stupid mistakes, like it put hiring instead of, for hire, looking for work, or whatever the terminology that you're supposed to use on this particular community, on this forum. And yes, that's silly robot. But also it builds all this other amazing stuff, and it understands the rules of the forums. It refuses to break them. Like, you got to understand that. And it's interesting that actually Ethan Malik, the person whose Twitter account we're looking at right now, he is the one that actually published this thing that we covered many moons ago at this point, Centaurs and Cyborgs on the Jagged Frontier. What the heck does that mean? Well, the jagged frontier is the important concept here. So first of all, the people that use AI, the quality of their work, how fast they produce results, it improves drastically. Yes, there are issues and there are some ways to work around those issues, but just you got to understand overall, it's a big improvement. One thing that people need to grasp when working with AI is this. So there's this dotted kind of line, this kind of, just kind of imagine the outside of a circle, and that's sort of what we humans think of as equally difficult tasks. So for us, for example, if I asked you to write a quick email introducing yourself, that would be fairly easy. It will take you maybe 30 seconds, 60 seconds, really how fast you type. And I also asked you to count the number of apples in an image. Let's say there was 6 or 11 apples in there, whatever. Like you'd kind of think of those as tasks of similar difficulty compared to like differential equations or rocket science or whatever. Like those are relatively similar in difficulty, but with AI abilities, they have these wild swings where certain tasks that seem easy to us, it will fail, but at the same time, it can do these super advanced tasks that we are not good at. So it's important to kind of visualize its abilities as this jagged frontier. And Sam Altman pointed this out in his Lex Fridman interviews, that people love to see where AI gets something like a little bit wrong and kind of make fun of it and say, stupid AI, right? Similar to some of the comments here going, well, it put the incorrect tag. It's so stupid. Like I could have put the correct tag in there because I'm so smart. Okay. But could you do everything else that this thing can develop, that it can produce, that it can troubleshoot and iterate and improve? Here's that startup funding calculator, right? So the explanation gets a key detail wrong. So somewhere in here, so there's an error in how to explain stuff. The labels on the sliders to use to calculate stuff, well, they could be better. But you see how we're no longer saying, we're no longer picking on it for not being able to do something. We're kind of nitpicking it for certain silly things that it didn't do right. It didn't tag its post correctly, and it does everything autonomously. Ethan says, because I'm delegating work to the AI, error checking feels more like giving normal feedback to a contract worker. It did all of those problem-solving steps on its own with no input from me. Here's another interesting example where Devin kind of impersonates one of the team members. So this is Devin writing this, right? So he was given some task and there's some issues. So he opens up a customer support ticket, right? And he writes in, he says, hello, modal support team. I have been exploring the modal documentation to understand the life cycle of whatever. So he's not getting something. He's saying, I was not able to find explicit information for the thing that I'm looking for. Can you provide some insights or documentation on that thing? And this information is critical for us. Thank you. And so the customer service agent, the developer that's helping out, so he's responding. He's like, okay, so what do you mean specifically by propagation time? Devin explains it. He says, I mean the duration it takes for XYZ to happen, and describes specifically the information that he's trying to understand. The customer support person says, hey, Devin, that's a good question. Now, if you're wondering why he's referring to him as Devin, so, they asked permission first before doing this. They're not just like messing with random people online, but he explains the question and Devin responds by saying, thank you. And he's saying, we've decided based on this information, this is what we're going to do. But the point is, these agents are kind of emerging into the world right now. This professor that was showing us what is possible, he took the post down. But it's very possible that these are out there right now generating money. I think we've kind of crossed that threshold. Certainly looking at everything that Devin's been doing, it's easy to see that that's very, very plausible. So a while back, I posted this survey and we got quite a response. 12,000 people voted. And the question was simple. So it was an if-then statement. So if we assume this, so given A, what do you think about this, right? So we're stating if robots and AI start causing massive unemployment, right? Let's assume that so we can just kind of discuss that possible timeline, right? Some people might say this is not going to happen, and that's fine, but we're not, for just the context of this voting, let's assume that's happening, right? Then what effect would something like UBI have, right? So for unemployment, let's assume it's persistent and is causing problems like hunger, unrest, right? So things are getting bad, right? People are hurt and hurting, all right? And then UBI, so we're talking about some sort of a guaranteed payment to every person, maybe every adult, something that's going to cover all the expenses or enough to get them by. And I know in the past, this has been very like split between political opinions, kind of controversial. So I'm also saying, like, let's not assume this is just kind of a one political party that's pushing it. Let's say there's representation in how we develop this across various major political viewpoints, aka bipartisan. That's how we sort of refer to it in the United States, right? So I'm trying to describe a very specific scenario where we know the situation is bad. All the politicians are aboard to improve the situation somehow. They decided to push out some sort of UBI style payments. Like, what is the result of that? And the first option is really bad. Like, there's close to a 0% chance of a positive outcome. Like, it's not going to work. Or it's likely bad, right? So it will be authoritarian. It's going to destroy, undermine human drive, etc. Or will be likely good, right? Meaning that if we carefully plan it, we carefully execute it, then it will solve a lot of problems. Or it's going to be really good, like just 100% chance of positive outcomes, or you could skip to see the answers. And so by far, the almost half of you voted. In fact, if you don't take in the people that skipped, like this is even probably more than half, right? Let's just say half of you said that it's likely going to be good, assuming that we carefully plan and execute it. Because certainly I think a lot of people are aware of potentially really massive problems that like this can have, right? If you're relying on the government for your money, for the things that you need to live, there's no other way of getting it. You can't go work a job. Like, you can imagine some pretty dystopian outcomes, right? They can tell you where you can live, what you can do. If you speak out against it, you get cut off, how many kids you can have. If it's a digital currency, they can say, well, you have to spend it only in this one area, and you got to stay in that one, like in your city or whatever, right? You can't leave your city. You can't go traveling because whatever, we don't want you traveling and using up resources. So your credit card might only work in a certain geographical area, and the credits expire every month, so you have to use them. You can't save, right? So, I mean, I'm sure we can paint a really bleak picture. And I don't think that's lost on anybody. I think people are kind of aware that, anything can be corrupted and used for nefarious means. And I think this is what a lot of people here are concerned with. And again, I think that certainly there is room for concern. We have to be mindful about these issues. But also a lot of people think that if we carefully plan and execute it, this will help, right? Maybe in the short term to help that transition, or maybe even in the long term. Sam Altman did a great job explaining his take on it, this idea of a Moore's law for everything. And he's specifically pointing out some potential issues that could be really bad if we don't take care of them. Like, for example, we can't let people borrow against it, sell, or otherwise pledge their future fund distributions. Or really, we're not going to solve the problem of making sure that the wealth we gain from AI and robotics, that we distribute it to everyone. For me, it's also apparent that it has to be guaranteed, right? If we start making decisions about who gets it, who doesn't, right? That could be used to pressure, people from not speaking out politically, etc. So in other words, if we decide to do it, there can't be like some committee who decides who gets it or who doesn't. That, of course, means some people that you might really not like, that you think are very evil people, they are also going to get it. But the point that I'm showing you this isn't to push any idea on you or to try to convince you to believe in something. I try to state my opinions in a very neutral way as much as it's humanly possible. But the point that I'm trying to make is we're likely going to have something like this if scenario, right? And when that time comes, we're going to need a solution, or at least some sort of a plan, a few potential solutions that we can try out. So I think if you think this is a really bad idea, I certainly understand why, what the concerns are. Some of those concerns scare me as well, but what is the alternative? But whatever the case is, whatever you think, these are some of the things that we need to start thinking about, because things are moving fast. Because 6 months ago, it was a cool story I was telling on YouTube. Today, it's a thing that's soliciting payments on Reddit and Fiverr, etc. Where's it going to be a year, 2 years from now? Recently, I launched a forum, natural20.com, where all of us can engage in some of these conversations, discuss what's coming. I want to make sure that it's open for everybody and kind of organize everybody into kind of various topic categories. If you want to talk about the doom and gloom, wasn't that literally one of the posts? Yeah, doom and gloom, X-risk thread. Come on in, we have cookies. That's a lie. The cake is a lie. They don't have cookies. Oh my God. I lied about the cookies. Sorry. I think it's important we discuss this stuff. I knew it. Eliza, I knew it. But I think it's good to have these discussions. I also know that a lot of us probably won't engage too much in that. There's a discussion about the generative AI is the biggest heist in the whole history of human creativity. This one kind of blew up. People are talking about how fair is it that AI can just sort of train on artwork and then reproduce it or do something similar, kind of a derivative of it. But so we can talk about that, but also I do want to talk about how we can take advantage of some of the stuff that's coming, prepare for some of the stuff that's coming. A lot of people here want to build businesses around it. A lot of people are excited about it. People are shocked and stunned at how many people are in here. So I really enjoy interacting with everybody in the comments of YouTube. However, I found that for some of the deeper discussions where you want to have a back and forth, where you want to be able to find and link to other threads, etc., the forum here is running on Discourse. It's an open source platform that I find is just excellent at organizing this information. So it's free, it's open. I'll link it in the show notes below. You can lurk and just read what people are talking about it, or even better, join in and join the discussion. We're going to be having contests and hopefully giveaways. I just got to figure out how to do that without breaking any of the various laws of the various countries that everyone's from. But if you wanted to dig deeper into some of this stuff, then check it out. It's growing crazy fast. If you don't like chaos and you prefer to have everything neatly organized with neatly laid out rules, we'll try to get to that over the next few weeks, few months. Right now, it just launched. It's growing rapidly. It's insane. And we're trying to optimize and figure out how to make all of that work. But a little bit chaotic right now, so I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I'd love to hear from you. There's a lot of things coming that we need to prepare for, that we need to discuss. I wanted to have something like this where we can keep things on track, on point. It's more or less limited to AI. There's almost no other sections kind of outside of that. The closest thing to outside of that is what I'm reading, where you can kind of post any content that you want. You can post your favorite science fiction books or whatever, sort of like our chants, whatever. But if that sounds fun, go ahead and join me. We have hundreds of users already and growing fast. So looking forward to hearing from you. Check out natural20.com, natural20.com, and let me know what you think. My name is Wes Roth. Thank you for watching.